A cold autumn rain has been pouring down all day. The city beneath it turns gray and slippery. Sienna Jones emerges from the bookstore where she works and wraps herself in a thin coat. It offers little warmth. Her long, wavy black hair quickly becomes damp and sticks to her cheeks and neck. She's in a hurry. Today is an important day. She has an interview for a course at the evening university. This is her chance. The bag with her portfolio is heavy and awkward. The bus is about to leave the stop across the street. Sienna is practically running on the wet sidewalk. Her foot hits a puddle, and cold water pours right into her shoe. She flinches, losing her balance for a second. Her heavy, strap-on bag flies sideways, arcs, and slams hard into the side of a parked car. The sound is nasty, sharp, a long grinding of metal on metal. Sienna freezes in place. Her heart gives one loud thump, and then seems to sink somewhere below. Slowly, very slowly, she turns her head. The car is big, dark, almost black. Rain runs down its shiny paint, and right across the fender, from the door to the wheel, runs a bright, ugly streak, as if someone drew it with a giant silver pencil. It's a deep scratch, brand new. Her scratch. Her breath catches in her throat. Her vision darkens. She looks around, but the street is deserted on this chilly evening. No one saw her. She could just leave. No one would know. But Sienna can't. She stands and looks at this ugly mark. This isn't her world, these shiny, expensive cars. Her world is books, a small apartment, an electric bill. But she knows the value of things. She knows this repair will cost a fortune, money she doesn't have. The bus pulls away. The interview is missed, but now it seems like a small thing. Sienna moves closer, touches the cold metal with her fingers. The scratch is deep. She feels tiny and helpless under this freezing rain. Thoughts scurry around Sienna's head like frightened birds. What should she do? Just leave it as is? No, she's not like that. Her mother always taught her to be responsible for her actions, even the accidental ones, especially the accidental ones. I need to leave a note. I need to apologize and leave my contact information. Sienna rummages through her bag, her hands shaking from the cold and shock. There are keys, a wallet, a pack of tissues, an old lipstick, and crumpled pieces of paper, a dry cleaning receipt, a flyer. Not a single blank page. The rain is getting heavier. Water is running down the collar of my coat. I need to think of something now. She pulls out a dry cleaning receipt. It's small. The paper is thin, but there's a clean spot on the back. And lipstick. She doesn't have a pen. Just cheap brown lipstick. Sienna presses the receipt against the wet roof of the car, trying to create some kind of solid surface. Her fingers are frozen. She struggles to twist out the lipstick. The color is too dark, almost like blood. She starts writing, but the lipstick smears across the wet paper. The letters come out crooked and greasy. Sorry, she writes in capital letters. I scratched your car. It was an inaccurate mistake. Please contact me. She writes down her phone number. Then, after thinking, she adds her name. Sienna. Let him know this is a real person, not anonymous. The rain has made the paper soft, blurring the letters. She needs to leave it where the wind won't blow it away. Sienna looks around. The windshield wipers are clean. She carefully slides the wet, lipstick-stained receipt under the driver's side wiper. The note looks pitiful and unreliable. It's all she can do. She feels terrible, but at least she did it. With one last guilty glance at the scratch, Sienna turns and quickly walks away into the rain, leaving her little disaster behind. An hour later, the rain subsides. A black SUV pulls up to the car. A driver in a strict uniform gets out. He opens the back door. Park Han comes out. His blonde hair is neatly combed back. He's wearing a light wool suit that fits his tall, trim frame perfectly. His face is calm, his cheekbones and jawline sharply defined by the streetlight. He's about to get into the car, but his gaze automatically glides to the fender. He stops. His calm expression doesn't change, but something clicks in his eyes. He takes a step closer. Park Han leans down and slowly runs his index finger over the scratch. He feels its depth. Then his gaze falls on the windshield. On that same pathetic, wet piece of paper, he takes it off. The paper almost falls apart in his fingers. He unfolds it, sees the smudged brown letters, sees the name, Sienna, sees the phone number. Han's face remains completely unreadable. No anger, no irritation, no surprise. He simply studies the note. His gaze lingers on the name, then on the number. He doesn't say a word. He simply carefully, tenderly folds the wet scrap of paper and places it in the inside pocket of his jacket. The action is precise, measured. He looks at the scratch again. Then he looks up and slowly scans the dark street, the entrances of the buildings, the windows, as if searching for whoever did it. Or perhaps he's simply assessing the situation. Jin, he says quietly to his assistant, who is standing nearby. Tomorrow by noon. The assistant, Li Jin, simply nods. He understood everything without further ado. The car will be repaired by noon the next day. Khan stares at the scene for another second. Then he gets into the car. It's quiet and warm inside. He doesn't take out the note again. He simply sits, looking out the window at the flickering lights, his fingers feeling the rough texture of the wet paper in his pocket. His face is expressionless. It's a stony mask, but something is already stirring in his head. Something unexpected. A day passes. Sienna barely sleeps. She lies in the darkness of her small apartment, listening to every sound on the street. The screeching of brakes makes her heart pound. Footsteps in the entryway seem threatening. She imagines the owner of the car. In her imagination, it's always an angry, elderly man with a red face. He yells at her on the phone. He demands a huge sum of money. He threatens to take her to the police, to court. She sees rude people harassing her on the street, demanding money. She sees herself losing her job because of the scandal. At work at the bookstore, she's absent-minded. She puts books on the wrong shelves and mixes up her change. Every time a man in expensive clothes walks into the store, she cringes. She thinks it's him, or someone he sent. On the street, she avoids dark cars. She gives them a wide berth. Every shiny car seems like a potential threat. She finds herself studying the faces of passers-by, searching for signs of anger directed at her. On the evening of the second day, she looks out the window. A dark sedan is parked outside her house. It's been there for an hour. Sienna closes the curtains, then opens them again. The car is still there. A chain of logic immediately forms in her head. They found her address. They're waiting for her to come out so they can have a man-to-man talk. She calls a friend, muttering something about a strange car. Her friend says it's probably just someone visiting. But Sienna doesn't believe it. Her world has shrunk to the size of this anxiety. She feels trapped. She made a mistake and now awaits punishment. And uncertainty is the worst punishment. On the third day, in the morning, her phone finally rings. An unfamiliar number, a landline. Sienna sits on the edge of the bed. The phone vibrates in her hand like a living, dangerous creature. This is the moment of truth. She's done it. Now she needs to answer. She takes a deep breath, trying to calm the tremor in her voice, and presses reply. "Hello?" she says, her voice thin and scared. "Good afternoon. This is the Sunny Credit Agency," comes the cheerful, carefree voice of a young woman. "We offer unique lending terms. Do you have a minute?" Sienna can't utter a word. A wild relief and a new wave of irritation mingle in her chest. It's not him. It's not the owner of the car. It's just an annoying ad. "No," she says sharply. "I don't have a minute. But you can do it for just—" Sienna hangs up. She throws the phone onto the bed like a hot coal and buries her face in her hands. Her nerves are taut as strings. Every call will be torture from now on. The anticipation is driving her crazy. She's ready for anything. Yelling, threats, bills, ready to pay in installments, work 3 jobs, anything just to make this end. But there's still no call. The silence grows louder than the screams. And in the pocket of Park Haen's expensive jacket lies a damp scrap of paper. And he hasn't yet decided what to do with it. But he's already decided he won't let this go. Another day passes. Sienna almost convinces herself that whoever owns the car simply didn't notice the note. Maybe it blew away. Maybe he threw it away without looking. A tiny sliver of hope begins to sprout. That evening, she hears a clear, confident knock on the door. Not a bell, but a knock. 3 times. Precise, like a drumbeat. All her fear returned in an instant. She crept to the door and peered through the peephole. There was no one on the landing. Only a large wicker basket sat on the floor, right in front of the threshold. Sienna waits, listens. No footsteps, no sounds. She slowly, carefully unlocks the door and peers out. The stairwell is empty. She bends down and picks up the basket. It's heavy. She brings it into the apartment, places it on the kitchen table, and simply looks at it. It doesn't look like a threatening package. It's beautiful, elegant. The basket was large, woven from light-colored wicker. Inside were things Sienna had only seen in magazines. Small jars of black pearl caviar, a flat golden box of exquisite chocolate, each piece in its own compartment. 2 perfect peaches, velvety and rosy, a round wheel of cheese in a waxy shell. And in the center of it all, a bouquet, Not roses, but white orchids. Fragile, incredible, as if made of porcelain and silk. The sight exudes such impeccable cold luxury that Sienna feels uneasy. It's too much. Too expensive. Too beautiful. This isn't. Sorry, let's work this out. It's something else entirely. She feels no relief. The anxiety changes its form. Now she doesn't fear the screams. She fears this incomprehensible, silent generosity. Who could have sent this? Only one person. The owner of the car. But why? To soften her before the blow? To show his superiority? She carefully rummages through the contents of the basket, searching for a note, and finds it. Not a piece of paper, but a thick, cream-colored envelope made of expensive, thick paper. The envelope is unsealed. Sienna pulls out a single item. It's a business card, but it's the strangest card she's ever seen. It's heavy, matte, and pleasant to the touch. There's no name on it, no job title, no company name, nothing. Only in the center, embossed, is the mobile phone number, and below, also embossed but in a smaller font, is the date and time, Thursday, 8 p.m. And on the back, handwritten in dark blue ink, are just 3 lines. Your nerves these past few days are undoubtedly worth more than the varnish on the metal. Let me make up for this misunderstanding. I await your call. Sienna rereads these lines again and again. The handwriting is confident, with a strong slant. The phrases are measured, strangely formal, and at the same time, almost gallant. To make up for this misunderstanding. Not to discuss the repairs. Not to talk about the consequences. Misunderstanding. And, I'm waiting for your call. Not call me, but I'm waiting. As if he's giving her complete power to decide whether that call will happen or not. This confuses her even more. No threats, no demands, just a number, a time, and an invitation that exudes icy politeness and absolute certainty that she will call. Sienna places a business card on the table next to a basket of orchids. 2 realities collide in her kitchen. Hers is a simple cup of tea, a rent bill, and this reality is caviar, chocolate, embossed business cards, and a man who talks about compensation for her nerves. She doesn't touch the gifts. They lie on the table like alien artifacts. She's afraid of them. They were bought with money the source of which she doesn't even want to imagine. She paces the apartment all evening, glancing at the phone and that ill-fated business card. Call? Not call? The entire next day passes. The business card lies on the nightstand next to her bed. Sienna sees it first thing when she wakes up. She tries to go about her daily routine, going to work, shelving books, serving customers. But her thoughts keep returning to one thing. He's waiting for her call. Thursday is less than a day away. If she doesn't call, what then? Will he disappear? Or will his politeness give way to something else? Maybe this dinner is just a civilized way to discuss everything and present her with the bill? But then why go to all this trouble with the gift? By evening, curiosity and the need to find out what awaits her at the end of this strange road overcome her fear. She can't wait any longer. She needs to act. Just before the store closes, she goes into a small back room. It's quiet and dusty. She takes out her phone and business card. She dials the number. She feels her palms instantly become clammy. The connection is established almost instantly. There's no dial tone. Silence for a couple of seconds, and then a voice. Hello! The sound alone makes her freeze. It's a man's voice, low, even, completely calm. There's no impatience, no irritation, no false sweetness in it. It sounds as if he's been genuinely waiting for this call and is now fully attentive to her. Hello! Sienna blurts out. Her own voice sounds squeaky. It's Sienna. About the car. Sienna! He pronounces her name clearly, with a slight, barely perceptible accent, giving it an unexpected melody. Thank you for calling. Did you get my basket? Yes, she says quickly. I received it. She's very generous, but it's not at all necessary. I'm willing to discuss the renovations. He interrupts her gently but firmly. No, he doesn't interrupt. He directs the conversation. The repairs have already been done. That doesn't matter. 2 things matter. The first is that I was the unwitting cause of your concern. The second is your honesty. I'd like to correct the first and give the second its due. So I'm inviting you to dinner. Just dinner. No hidden conditions. He says it so simply and directly that Sienna loses all her arguments for a moment. I don't know, she breathes out honestly. I understand your doubts, his quiet voice says on the phone. This is a public place, very open. You can leave at any time. I give you my word that this will be just an evening to erase the unpleasant impression. Nothing more. There's no pressure in his tone. There's only confidence and that strange, cold politeness. He's not pleading. He's stating a fact. Sienna is silent, clutching her phone. Okay, he finally hears her quiet voice. Okay, I'll come. Great, he replies, and she thinks she hears the faintest, barely born satisfaction in his voice. At 8, you'll be met at the elevator. See you later, Sienna. He hangs up first. Sienna stands in the dim light of the back room, holding the hot phone to her ear, which now only rings briefly. His voice still echoes in her head, quiet, polite, without a single note of anger, and that made it even more frightening. Sienna spends Thursday in a state of nervous tension. She can't concentrate on anything. She has only one thought, what to wear. It seems silly, but it's the only thing she can focus her anxiety on. She stands in front of the open closet and looks at her things. Everything is simple, comfortable, casual. Jeans, t-shirts, a couple of simple dresses for work. The dress she wore when she scratched the car hangs separately. She can't wear it. It's now associated only with that evening. She has one and only one evening dress. It's dark blue, simple in cut, but it fits her figure well, accentuating her waist. It's discreet. It's safe. She tries it on in front of the mirror, then looks in the closet again. No, this isn't it. This man is from a world of orchids and caviar. He's used to something else. Panic is mounting. She doesn't have the right shoes. She doesn't have the right handbag. She feels like Cinderella, not just unprepared for the ball, but afraid to go. She calls her friend, Margot. Margot is Sienna's complete opposite, determined, loud, and unafraid of anything. Are you crazy? Margot practically screams into the phone as Sienna haltingly recounts everything from the scratch to the phone call. Of course you're coming! It's just like in the movies. Margot, I'm scared. It's some kind of boss. He's probably Mafia. So what? Margot retorts calmly. He didn't yell or threaten. He sent flowers and invited me to a public place. The most dangerous Mafia boss in town wouldn't bother just to scare a girl. He needs something else. What? Sienna asks in horror. Who knows? Maybe he just liked you. Your honesty there. Or maybe he's just weird. But you won't find out sitting at home. Put on your blue dress. It looks great on you. And go. Look him in the eyes. If anything happens, call me. I'll call the police. Tell him you're in trouble. But nothing will happen. It's an adventure. Margot's persuasion works. It's rough and direct, but it fills Sienna with a certain strength. Yes, this is an adventure. Scary, incomprehensible, but she's already gotten herself into it. She must face what she started when she left that note. She chooses a blue dress. She polishes her only good pumps. She applies simple makeup, a little brighter than usual. She looks in the mirror. Before her stands not a frightened girl, but a grown woman on her way to an important meeting. This sight gives her a little confidence, just a little. At precisely 7:45, Sienna steps out of a taxi in front of one of the tallest buildings in the city. It's not just a skyscraper, it's a symbol, glass and steel, reaching into the dark sky. She holds a business card with the address in her hand. There's a separate entrance, off to the side of the main luxurious door. There's only a small matte metal sign with the club's name, Cloud 89. The dark glass doors slide silently open. Inside, a small, simple hallway, finished in wood and stone, sits a man in a perfect suit behind the counter. Good evening. What is your name? Sienna Jones. They're waiting for me. The man looks at the tablet screen, nods, and smiles a perfect, impersonal smile. Of course, Miss Jones. The elevator is on the right. You will be met. The elevator is a separate capsule made of polished metal and glass. There is no button panel inside. As soon as Sienna enters, the doors close silently, and the car begins its smooth, upward motion. The silence here is absolute. Glass walls reveal a panorama of the city, which quickly shrinks, turning into a scattering of gold and white lights. The buildings become toy-like, the cars like bugs. Sienna's heart is pounding so loudly she thinks she can hear it in this silent capsule. She clutches her purse. Fragments of thoughts race through her head. What am I doing? Where am I going? He's probably watching me from the cameras right now. She feels small and incredibly vulnerable, rising so high into the very depths of an alien, incomprehensible world. The elevator slows. A soft sound breaks the silence. The doors slide open, and she finds herself not in a hall, but in a spacious room. The floor is dark, polished stone. The ceiling is high, made of glass, and through it, the black night sky can be seen. The city lies far below, like a glowing map. Right in front of the elevator, a few steps away, he stands. Pak Han. He's not sitting at the table waiting. He's standing here, waiting for her. He's wearing a light suit, which seems even whiter in the dim light. His blonde hair is combed evenly. His arms hang relaxed at his sides. And he looks straight at her. His face is still hard to read, but there's no mockery in his eyes. No assessment of her dress or appearance. There's simply attention, complete and undivided. Sienna, he says quietly, and his voice sounds exactly like it did on the phone, only now it's real. I'm glad you came. He takes a small, polite step forward, and Sienna realizes there's no turning back. The elevator, its doors already closed, stands behind her, and ahead is only him, this quiet, mysterious man, and an evening filled with uncertainty. Sienna pauses for a second in the elevator doors. She sees him in all his glory. He's taller than she imagined, slender, with a straight back. His light suit fits him perfectly, emphasizing his broad shoulders and narrow waist. His face is illuminated by a soft light from somewhere above, high cheekbones, a strong jawline, and light, almost flaxen hair, neatly styled. He looks at her. His gaze slides over her face, stopping at her eyes. He doesn't look her up and down, like some men do. He simply looks, as if trying to read something, and then he smiles. It's not a wide smile. The corners of his lips lift just slightly, but it changes his entire face. It loses some of its icy precision. Something warm, almost human, appears in his eyes. This smile disconcerts Sienna. She expected cold formality or a hidden threat, but he smiles as if he were smiling at an old friend he hasn't seen in a long time. Sienna, he repeats, his voice quiet but clear in the spacious room. I'm glad you came. He takes another step forward, but doesn't invade her personal space. He simply closes the distance for conversation. Thank you for the invitation, he hears her voice. It sounds more collected than she feared. Please, I beg you, he says, gesturing with a slight wave of his hand toward the depths of the hall. He walks beside her, neither behind nor in front. His steps are silent on the stone floor. The room is huge, but the tables are few. They are arranged so that each person has their own privacy and view. The dim light from the lamps on the tables and the glow of the city below create an unreal, ethereal atmosphere. He leads her to a table right by the glass. The view from here is mesmerizing and a little terrifying. So high. He holds a chair for her. It's an old-fashioned, gallant gesture. She sits down, feeling the coolness of the glass just beside her. He sits down opposite her. Now she sees him in good light. He is young, very young for the status she ascribed to him. He is clearly not 30. His eyes look at her with genuine interest. This place is unusual, Sienna says, because something needs to be said. Yes, he agrees, nodding. It's quiet here, and far from everything. Sometimes that's important. The waiter approaches silently, a young man in a dark suit. He doesn't say a word, simply places the menu in front of them and pours water from a glass carafe. Khan doesn't even open his menu. I've already placed an order, he says. I hope you'll trust me with your choice. If you don't like something, you can always change it. He says it not as an order, but as a suggestion. But there's such confidence in his tone that Sienna simply nods. She wouldn't be able to concentrate on choosing dishes right now anyway. The food arrives in small portions, beautifully arranged on plates. Everything looks like works of art. Sienna eats slowly, afraid to do anything wrong, and he asks questions. Simple, but not superficial. He asks about her work at the bookstore. What do people buy most often? What books does she like? He listens attentively as she talks about her love of old detective stories and historical novels. He asks where she studied and learns that she wanted to take literature courses, but can't afford it yet. Why literature? He asks. I like understanding how stories work, she says, feeling a little more confident in familiar territory. Why some resonate and others don't. How words can create an entire world. He nods as if it were the most important answer in the world. He asks about her family. Sienna talks about her mother, who works as a nurse, and her younger brother, who goes to college. She doesn't talk about problems or money, but he seems to understand everything anyway. And the most astonishing thing is that he doesn't mention the car at all. Not the scratch, not the repairs, not the amount. It's as if it never happened. This makes Sienna relax, but at the same time, it makes her wary. Where has the anger gone? Where has the desire for compensation gone? Time flies as they talk. Sienna finds herself talking more than usual. His quiet attention, his gaze undistracted by his phone or other people, invites openness. "And you?" she finally decides to ask. "What do you do?" He puts down his fork, his face becoming a little more focused. "Family business," says Park Han, his voice still even. "Imports and logistics, mostly from Asia." "That sounds big," Sienna says carefully. "It's complicated," he corrects. "A lot of travel, a lot of negotiations, a lot of responsibility. It's a business my father built. Now I run it." He says it simply, as if it were something self-evident. No pride, no boasting, just a fact. "It must take a long time," Sienna remarks. "Yes, time is the only non-renewable resource," he replies. A look of weariness briefly appears in his eyes, but he quickly hides it. "But sometimes there are pleasant breaks." He looks at her, and Sienna feels a slight blush on her cheeks. Everything he says sounds logical and plausible. Imports, logistics, a family business, but something about it doesn't add up. It's too smooth, too simple for someone with access to such a place, who can order dinner without looking at the menu, and whose gifts cost more than her salary in several months. There are clearly layers to this family business he's not discussing. She doesn't ask for details. She senses this is the limit. He politely opens the door, but doesn't let her in. Sienna decides to go to the bathroom to clear her head and gather her thoughts. He immediately stands up when she does. "They'll show you," he says, his gaze sliding off to the side, an almost imperceptible nod of the head. The waiter approaches the table silently and, with a slight bow, points her way. The restroom is located in a small hallway behind a heavy wooden door. When she comes back out, she pauses for a moment in the darkened passage between the main hall and the corridor. She wants to catch her breath before returning to the table, and at that moment she sees them. Two men approach Khan's table. They don't look like the other patrons. They're dressed in formal dark suits, but there's no elegance or relaxation about them. Their postures are composed, almost tense. Their faces are serious, even stern. They don't approach as friends or colleagues. They approach with the posture of soldiers. And when they reach the table, they simultaneously, almost reflexively, bow their heads slightly. It's not a bow, but a gesture of utmost respect, even submission. Khan doesn't rise. He sits, leaning back in his chair. He listens to what the first man says, nodding curtly. His face once again becomes that stony mask it hadn't been all evening. He replies quietly, monosyllabically. His gesture is practiced and abrupt, a palm placed edgewise on the table. An order that brooks no argument. The men nod again, even more respectfully. And at that moment, the second man's gaze glides across the room and catches Sienna, standing in the shadows. He freezes. His eyes widen for a split second. He whispers something quickly to the first. Both immediately step away from the table, straighten up, their faces completely impassive. They give another respectful nod in Khan's direction and quickly, but without fuss, walk to the other side of the room, disappearing into the semi-darkness. Hans slowly turns his head. His gaze finds Sienna, and again his face changes. The icy mask melts. The corners of his lips lift again in the same calm half-smile. It's as if he's switching modes. He gestures for her to return to the table, as if nothing had happened. But Sienna saw it all. It was only a few seconds, but it was a glimpse into his true world. A world where his word is law, and people approach him with fear and respect. Her heart begins to beat faster again. They finish dessert. The conversation becomes light again, but Sienna's head is now swirling with questions. She tries to remain calm. As dinner comes to an end, he looks at her. "I have to go," Sienna says. "I have to go to work early tomorrow." "Of course." He nods immediately. He doesn't try to persuade her to stay. He walks her back to the elevator, just as he met her. He stands next to her, while she waits for the capsule to rise. He is silent for a few seconds, looking past her at the city lights. Then his gaze returns to her. "Sienna," he says quietly, "thank you for this evening. And again, I'm sorry for those days of anxiety." "I'm the one who should be apologizing." She tries to object. He shakes his head. "No. Your honesty," he pauses, choosing his words, "is a rare gem in this city. Most people in your place would have simply run away. You stayed. You took responsibility. That's a quality." He doesn't say this as a casual compliment. There's no playfulness or flattery in his voice. He's stating a fact. He speaks as if assessing an asset or a business quality. A rare diamond. It sounds like the highest praise in his world, and a bit like code, like an admission that he saw something truly valuable in her, something missing from his circle. The elevator arrives. The doors open. "Let me take you home this time," he says. He's not asking. He's offering. "No thanks," Sienna answers quickly. She needs some time alone to process everything. "I'll take a taxi." He doesn't insist. He just nods. "Then goodbye, Sienna." "Good night." She steps into the elevator. The doors close, cutting off his image. Tall, blonde, in a perfect suit, standing alone in a vast, empty hall at bird's-eye view. At home, in the safety of her apartment, the first thing Sienna does is turn on her computer. Now she has a name, Park Han. She types it into a search engine. The results are very few, and they are strange. No social media pages, no personal photos, no magazine interviews. There are a few dry official references. In a 3-year-old news item about a charity auction, among the guests at the event was Park Han, a representative of the family business Park. Elsewhere, on the website of some Chamber of Commerce, the list of members includes Park Han, Family Enterprise Pack. That's all. She's looking for Pack Family Business. The company's website is minimalist, almost empty. The description of its activities is international trade, logistics, consulting. There's no project portfolio, no team list, no office photos. Only a contact phone number and an address in the city's business center. This doesn't look like a normal business. It looks like a facade, like a sign on a door, behind which something large and dark is hidden. Sienna closes her laptop. She sits in silence. He wasn't lying. He does work in logistics, but that word clearly means much more to him than just shipping containers. The next morning, when Sienna leaves her apartment to go to work, she sees a small, narrow box made of thick white paper on the floor by the door. It has no stamp or writing on it. She carefully lifts it and opens it. Inside, on a soft paper backing, lies a single white orchid, just as fragile and perfect as the ones in the basket. A tiny vial of water is attached to it to keep the flower from wilting. No note, no words. Sienna brings the flower inside and places it in a glass of water. She stares at it all day when she's home. It's beautiful, and that makes her especially uneasy. The next morning, a new box. Another white orchid. Again, no words. And so it is every day. At precisely the same time, when she leaves the apartment, the box is already lying by the door. Never before, never after. She never catches the courier. It's as if his ghost leaves these flowers. It's both sweet and incredibly unsettling. On the one hand, it's a gesture, a continuation, a silent reminder of his interest. On the other hand, there's something ritualistic in this regularity, this insistent yet silent delivery. Something of a mark. He doesn't write to her, doesn't call. He simply reminds her every day of his existence, that he knows where she lives, that he can afford such a whim, that she's now on his radar. Sienna doesn't know what to do with this. Throw the flowers away? But they were beautiful. They're not to blame. Keep them? But then she accepts these gifts, accepts this strange, quiet game. She doesn't throw them away. Every morning she finds a new box, sighs, brings the flower inside, and places it in the vase where a small bouquet has already formed. And every day she looks at these white, almost unreal flowers and thinks of him, of Park Han, of his smile, of his quiet voice, of his icy gaze when those two approached him, and of his words. A rare diamond. She's caught his eye, and she doesn't yet understand whether this is good or bad. The orchids continue to arrive every morning. Sienna no longer flinches when she finds a box. It's now part of her morning ritual. She even bought a small glass vase for it. A few days pass after dinner. It's a quiet evening at work. Sienna is arranging new arrivals on the shelves. The doorbell chimes melodically. She turns around and freezes. Park Han is standing in the doorway. He looks less formal than he did that evening. He's wearing dark trousers and a simple gray sweater under an unbuttoned coat. He seems more human, closer to his age, but his posture and calm gaze mark him as no ordinary customer. He meets her eyes and smiles lightly, that same reserved smile. "Good evening," he says, approaching the counter. "Good evening," Sienna replies, feeling her pulse quicken. What are you doing here?" "I thought it was time to follow your recommendations," he says, looking around the shelves. You mentioned detective stories and historical novels. I'd like to start with something, if you don't mind helping. He says this with complete sincerity, as if he really came for the books. Sienna, a little taken aback, nods. Of course. Louis, what do you prefer? Intrigue? Mystery? Or something more slow, atmospheric? Whatever you like, he replies simply. You know about it, after all. She leads him through the narrow aisles between the shelves. It's strange to see him here, amid the smell of old paper and dust in her world. He listens attentively to her short stories about various authors. In the end, he chooses 3 books, 2 classic detective stories, and 1 historical novel about Victorian England. Excellent choice, Sienna says, ringing up her purchase at the checkout. Thanks for your recommendations, he says, holding out a bank card. Not the one you see in his wallet, but a separate, matte black one. The flowers, I hope, are being delivered on time? The question sounds casual, but Sienna senses the subtext. Yes, she says, handing him back the map and the bag of books. They're very beautiful, but you don't have to. I like it, he interrupts her softly. He looks at her directly. It's my way of saying good morning, without unnecessary words. He takes the bag. Thank you for your help. Good luck with the new arrivals, he says, and heads for the exit. At the door, he turns around. And yes, you look very beautiful today. And he goes out. The bell rings again. Sienna stands behind the counter, her fingers brushing against her simple work sweater. He came here on purpose. He bought the books she recommended. He mentioned flowers. It wasn't accidental. It was a message. I'm thinking of you. I'm entering your world. It's both flattering and terrifying. Sienna walks home in the evening. She needs to clear her head. The cool air and the rhythm of her steps are somewhat calming. She walks a couple of blocks and, changing streets, automatically glances at the reflection in the window of a dark store and notices a car. This isn't your average city car. It's a large, dark sedan with tinted windows. It's driving slowly, a few dozen meters behind her. When she stops at a traffic light, the car stops too, not coming close. Her first thought is paranoia, but she decides to check. She turns off her usual route onto a quieter side street. The car turns too. She quickens her pace. The car doesn't speed up. It simply continues moving at the same speed, maintaining its distance. Sienna feels a familiar chill of fear in her stomach. She practically runs toward her house. She runs into the entryway and, without opening the door, looks through the glass panel. The car slowly drives past the house. It doesn't stop. It simply disappears around the corner, just as Sienna is safely behind the door. This doesn't sound like threatening surveillance. It sounds like, an escort. Security. Someone simply made sure she got home and then left. But who? And on whose orders? The answer is obvious. Only one person knows her schedule and address well enough to organize such a thing. Sienna stands in the dark entryway, her forehead pressed against the cool glass. The feeling that overwhelms her is strange. It's not pure anxiety. It's a mixture of fear and something else. The realization that she's now under someone's surveillance, that someone has taken control of her safety without even asking her. It instills a terrible sense of loss of independence. But at the same time, deep down, there's a small, weak spark of something like security. It's one thing to fear abstract threats from the owner of a scratched car. Another, to feel like someone is watching you, making sure nothing happens to you. But who could she care so much about? And who are they protecting her from? The next day, a man comes to the store. He doesn't look like your average customer. He's wearing a long, expensive, dark gray coat. His face is dull and expressionless. He's middle-aged. He walks in and slowly, unhurriedly, walks around the entire store. He doesn't look at the spines of the books. His gaze glides over the shelves, the ceiling, the floor, and then stops at Sienna. He doesn't look at her the way a man looks at a woman. He studies her like an object. His gaze is cold, appraising, without a hint of interest. He looks at her face, her figure, her hands, the way she rearranges a stack of books. Sienna feels that gaze on her skin. She feels uneasy. She tries to pretend to be busy, but her hands are shaking slightly. The man doesn't ask any questions. He doesn't ask for help. He simply looks at her for another minute, then turns and walks out. The door closes behind him. Sienna exhales. Only then does she notice a crumpled paper receipt lying on the counter next to the cash register, the kind they usually give out at stores. But she knows for a fact she didn't leave it there, and he only came close enough to the counter once. When he entered the store, she carefully unfolds the check with her fingertips. On the back, scrawled in ballpoint pen, are 3 numbers, 250, nothing else. No name, no phone number, just numbers. 250. What is this? Amount? Room number? Code? This is clearly a message. But from whom? From that man? Or is he simply the courier who left this? And most importantly, what does it mean? A threat? A warning? Or a price? Sienna crumples the receipt and wants to throw it away, but stops herself. Instead, she puts it in her jeans pocket. She senses that this number means something. It's part of this new, strange reality she's entered into. She hadn't planned to call him so soon, but after this man's visit and these numbers in her pocket, she can't wait any longer. She needs answers. That evening, she dials his number, the one on his business card. He answers almost immediately. Sienna? There's a hint of surprise in his voice. I need to talk, she says without preamble. Her voice is firmer than she expected. In person. A short pause. Of course. Where and when? Right now. In the park, by the fountain. It's a public place. Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He arrives exactly 20 minutes later. Not in the dark car that followed her, but in another, less conspicuous vehicle. He is alone, wearing a dark coat, without a scarf. He approaches the bench where she is sitting. He sits down next to her, but not too close. He waits for her to speak. Sienna turns to him. She looks straight into his eyes. His face is calm, ready to listen. Who was that man in the store today? She begins. In the expensive coat. Who looked at me like I was a piece of merchandise? Han's brows furrow slightly. A momentary spark of something sharp and cold flashes in his eyes. It's not surprise. It's an instant threat assessment. Describe him, he says quietly. She describes. Coat, face, manner. Han's face hardens. He knows who she's talking about. This isn't about you, he says finally. This is about business. He left some numbers on the check. 250. What does that mean? Now Khan looks away. His jaw tenses. He stares at the dark water of the fountain. It means you've been spotted, he says very quietly. And it's my fault. What do you mean, noticed? Sienna's voice wavered. And what kind of business is this where people are noticed? And that machine that was following me yesterday, that was you, right? What does your family really do, Park Han? And what are you doing to me now? I don't want to be part of something I don't understand. She blurts it all out in one breath. All the fears, all the suspicions. He turns slowly towards her, his face looking tired and serious in the lantern light. My family is in a business that exists on the edge, he begins. His voice is low, even, without attempting to justify itself. We control certain flows, goods, services. It's a complex system with very strict rules, and with very influential partners and competitors. That man is from the competitors. He pauses, looking at her frightened face. Logistics isn't a lie, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm trying to get the family's affairs on a more peaceful track, but it's a long process, and for now, the world around us remains harsh. And me? Sienna whispers. You were a surprise, he says honestly. My personal surprise. And when something personal appears in my world, it becomes a vulnerability. Mine. And yours. The machine yesterday, these are my people. They make sure nothing happens to you, that no one decides to put pressure on me through you. I should have told you. I'm sorry. He says sorry simply, without pathos. As a statement of fact, he violated her boundaries. Why? She asks. Why am I so important? We just had dinner one time. He looks at her with a long, heavy gaze. Because in the last 10 years, you're the first person who's given me something without asking for anything in return, without even knowing who I was. You simply left a note. There are no people like that in our world. And when you find something rare, you need to cherish it and protect it, even if it means breaking someone else's rules, even yours. He doesn't say he likes her. He talks about value, about a rare diamond. He speaks his own language, the language of a man accustomed to assessing risks and assets. Sienna is silent. He wasn't lying. He opened the door a little wider, revealing a shadow of what lurks behind it. It's scary, but he's here, on the cold bench, explaining it to her. He's not hiding. And the numbers? 250? She asks finally. That's his estimate, Khan says gloomily. His thoughts out loud. Don't pay attention. He won't come around again. There is such iron confidence in his voice that Sienna almost believes it. They sit in silence for a while longer. He walks her all the way home. This time, there's no car behind her. She feels simultaneously devastated and strangely relieved. He told the truth. Not all of it, but part of it. That's enough for now. Come in, she says unexpectedly at the door of her apartment. Have some tea. It's cold outside. He looks at her with slight surprise, then nods. In her small apartment, he seems even larger. He carefully hangs his coat over the back of a chair. She puts on the kettle. He notices a vase of white orchids on the windowsill and smiles to himself. They drink tea. The conversation is cautious, about neutral things, about the books he bought, about her plans. The tension gradually subsides. When he gets ready to leave, he takes his jacket off the same chair, puts on his coat, and leaves. Only an hour later, when Sienna is putting away the cups, does she notice his jacket. It's hanging on the chair where he left it when he took off his coat. He forgot it. She sighs. She'll have to return it. She picks up the jacket to hang it in the hallway and feels a heaviness in one of the inside pockets. She thinks. Then carefully, she puts her hand in her pocket. Her fingers feel not a wallet, but a smooth, hard rectangle. She pulls it out. It's a plastic key card, black, without any embellishments. There's no hotel or company name on it, just a logo embossed in silver foil. It's a stylized image of an animal's paw with extended claws, and underneath it, in Gothic font, is the title, Lava Tiger, Tiger's Paw. Sienna stands in the middle of her kitchen, holding this cold plastic card. It's not an office key. It's a key to the very world he spoke of, a world of strict rules and influential partners. She remembers his cold face when those two men approached him in the restaurant. She remembers the number 250 on the check. This is the key. Literally, the key to a place with that name. It doesn't sound like a business lunch club. It sounds like a warning. She puts the map back in her jacket pocket. Her hands are shaking slightly. Now she has tangible proof. A piece of his reality left at her place, and she doesn't know what to do with it. Call him? Tell him what she found? Or keep quiet and try to forget, as if she never saw anything? But she's already seen it, and now she knows that Tiger Paw exists, and that Park Han has a direct connection to it. The jacket with the map has been lying at Sienna's house for 3 days. She doesn't call Han. She doesn't know what to say. On the 4th day, curiosity and fear get the better of her. She finds a barely noticeable microfont with an address on the map. It's not the city center. It's an old industrial area, a port zone. After work, she doesn't go home. She takes a bus, then transfers to another. The area outside the windows becomes increasingly deserted. Old brick warehouses, fences topped with barbed wire, the occasional dim streetlight. She gets off at the right stop. It's almost dark and deserted. A cold wind from the river cuts through her thin coat. She walks to the address indicated, checking the map on her phone. Andy finds the building. It doesn't look like a club. It's a former warehouse or factory made of dark brick. The ground floor windows are blocked with concrete blocks. There's no sign. Only above the heavy metal door, almost invisible in the shadows, hangs a dimly lit neon sign with the same logo, a stylized animal paw. Lava Tiger. 2 men stand at the door, despite the cold and deserted street. They aren't wearing security guard uniforms. They're wearing dark jackets, with their hands in their pockets. They don't speak to each other. They simply stand and watch. Their postures are relaxed, but in this relaxedness, one senses a readiness for immediate action. Sienna hides in the corner of the broken fence opposite. Her heart is pounding. She sees a black SUV pull up to the door. A man in an expensive suit gets out. The guards don't ask for a pass. They nod almost imperceptibly, and one of them opens the heavy door. A muffled hum of music and yellow light emanates from inside for a second. Then the door slams shut. This is not a restaurant. This is not a business center. This is a fortified place. A refuge. Headquarters. She knows she's doing something incredibly stupid, but she can't leave. She's frozen. She's scared, but she's waiting. Waiting for what? She doesn't know. About an hour passes. The door opens again. He comes out. Park Han. But this is not the man with whom she had dinner and tea. His face is a stone mask. His lips are pressed into a thin, straight line. His brows are furrowed. His eyes stare ahead, oblivious to everything around them, cold and focused. He is wearing a dark suit and a black coat. He moves quickly, decisively. Elle and Jin, his assistant, follow him out. Jin says something to him, something short and quick, leaning towards his ear. Han stops. He turns abruptly to face Jin. Sienna sees his hand clench into a fist, but he doesn't strike. He simply interrupts Jin's speech with a sharp, abrupt gesture. He says something of his own. His face contorts not with anger, but with something colder and more dangerous, the absolute, unyielding irritation of a power broker whose decision is being challenged. It's the look of a man accustomed to his word being law, and any discussion being an audacity. Jin immediately freezes, lowering his head, accepting this tone. He doesn't make any excuses. He simply nods, quickly and clearly. At that moment, Han might have felt someone's gaze on him, or perhaps it was just a coincidence. His gaze slid down the dark street and stopped for a split second, on the spot where Sienna was hiding. He doesn't recognize her in the darkness and at a distance. He simply sees a dark figure in the shadows, but his expression doesn't change. There's no curiosity or alarm in his eyes, only a cold, instant assessment of the threat. He looks at her the way one looks at an obstacle, an object that is either removed from the path or ignored if it poses no threat. He turns back to Jean, says another short sentence, and heads toward the waiting SUV without looking back. Sienna presses her back against the cold brick. She can't breathe. She's seen him. The real him. Not the one pretending for her, but who he is in his world. Cold, hard, dangerous. The kind of man who, with a single look and gesture, silences others and lowers their heads. She heard the car door slam, the engine rumble, and the car sped off into the night. But she still stood there, pressed against the wall, unable to move. She was right. This wasn't logistics. This was something else. Something that had no place in her world of books, tea, and white orchids. And this man smiling at her was just one of his masks, and perhaps the most subtle. She drives home in shock. There are no doubts left in her mind. The map, the building, the guards, his face, it all comes together to form one clear, terrifying picture. At home, she immediately notices his jacket, still hanging on the chair. It no longer seems like a forgotten object to her, but a trophy, a symbol of her naivety. She takes the map from her pocket and places it on the jacket, as if returning it to its true self. She picks up her phone. Her fingers are shaking. She opens the chat with his number and presses the voice message button. She can't call. She can't hear his voice right now. She begins to speak. At first, her voice breaks. "I saw you today. By that building. Tiger Paw," she says, and the sound of her own voice, quiet and cracked, frightens her. "I saw what you look like, how you talk to people. This isn't logistics. This isn't complex business with partners. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not my world, and I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to see you put on one mask for me and another for them. I don't want to be afraid of cars behind me and strangers in the store. I don't want your protection, which feels like a prison. Goodbye, Han. Don't look for me. Don't send flowers. Leave me alone." She sends the message. Then, before fear and doubt can stop her, she blocks his number. She deletes him from her contacts. She does everything she can to erase him from her digital life. Then she sits on the floor by the bed, clasps her knees, and stares into space. There are no tears. There is only an icy emptiness and the realization that she has just burned the bridge to the strangest and most intense story of her life. The next morning, the white box with the orchid is gone from the door. Silence sets in. For the first few hours, this silence feels like relief. She's done it. She's broken free. She's regained control. But by evening, the silence grows louder. She listens to every sound in the entryway. No one rings the doorbell. No one knocks. The phone is silent. No messages from unknown numbers. She goes to work, comes back. No one follows her. The dark sedan no longer appears. She is completely free and completely alone in this new, empty reality. This silence is more frightening than any threats, because threats mean something. They mean she's important to him, that he's not letting her go. But the silence means he's made his decision, that he's left, that she was just a passing fancy, easily discarded. The rare diamond turned out to be just a boulder, not worth the trouble. Or perhaps the silence signifies something else, that his world, harsh and dangerous, respects firm boundaries, that her no was heard and accepted as final. And now he simply vanished, just as he had appeared, silently and without explanation. She tries to live her life as before. She goes to work, talks with her friend Margot, watches TV shows, but everything seems flat, tasteless. Her world, which once seemed cozy, now seems cramped and boring. It lacks the nervous electricity, the thrill that was around him. Even fear was a living emotion. Now there is only silence, and it is oppressive. 3 days of silence. On the 4th day, in the middle of the workday, The doorbell in the store rang. Elle and Jin enter. He's alone. He's wearing a formal dark suit, his face impassive. He approaches the counter where Sienna stands frozen, book in hand. He doesn't smile. He shows no emotion. "Miss Jones," he says in a polite, even voice, bowing his head slightly. "I apologize for disturbing you." Sienna can't say a word. She just stares at him with wide eyes. "Pak Han asked me to tell you something," Jin continues, ignoring her alarm. "He wants to meet you. Just once. To explain everything. Not to take anything back or persuade you. Just so you understand. He thinks you deserve the full picture." He pauses briefly, looking directly at her. "And there's one condition on his part. Your safety. He asks you to arrive at the designated location in his car. This is non-negotiable. This is a guarantee that you won't be followed and that nothing will happen to you along the way. After the conversation, you'll be taken wherever you say." He pulls out of his inside pocket not a business card, but a plain white envelope. He places it on the counter. "Here's the address and the time. Today, at 9 o'clock. The car will be waiting for you at your house at 8:30. If you don't get out, it will leave, and no one will ever bother you again. The choice is yours." He nods slightly again, and without waiting for an answer, turns and leaves. Sienna stands rooted to the spot. She stares at the envelope. It's not a request. It's an ultimatum, wrapped in politeness. "Come and listen, or we'll disappear forever." But Jin's words weren't a threat to her. They were a threat to something else, her safety if she went alone. And that changes everything. She understands that this is her last chance, a chance to get answers, a chance to see him one last time, and perhaps a chance to close this story not in silence, but with understanding. She takes the envelope. At exactly 8:30, the same dark sedan was parked outside her house. An unfamiliar driver was behind the wheel. There was no one in the back seat. She gets in. The car starts moving. They're heading not to the port area, but to the city center, to the prestigious museum and gallery district. The car stops at the rear entrance of a large art museum. It's usually crowded with tourists. Now, it's empty and dark. The door opens. A uniformed guard greets her and silently leads her inside. She finds herself in a vast central hall. This is where the most famous paintings usually hang. Now the walls are bare. The paintings have been removed. The vast space is illuminated only by a few spotlights, creating islands of light in the sea of gloom. Her footsteps echo loudly off the marble floor. In the center of the hall, on one of the benches for visitors, he sits, Pak Han. He's wearing simple dark trousers and a black sweater. No jacket, no tie. He sits hunched over, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. In the spotlight, he looks tired and very young. Not a boss, just a man. He raises his head, hearing her steps. He stands up. They stand opposite each other in the empty, silent temple of art. No one will disturb them. No one will eavesdrop. "Thank you for coming," he says. His voice is quiet, without its previous confidence. It sounds sincere. He doesn't come any closer. He sits down on the bench again and gestures for her to sit next to him. She sits at a respectful distance. He is silent for a long time, collecting his thoughts. Then he begins to speak, slowly, choosing his words. "My father came here 30 years ago as a pauper," he begins. He started small, protecting his small business, the business of his immigrant friends, from gangsters and racketeering. Then protection became a business. Then the business grew. You call it the Mafia. Here they call it a family business. We control territory, the flow of goods that are duty-free, gambling, money lending, all the things that always exist in the shadow of the big city. He looks at his hands. "I was born here, in this shadow. I was raised not as a son, but as an heir. I wasn't taught mathematics, but how to negotiate under fire, how to see betrayal behind a sweet smile, how to be cruel when necessary. My father used to say, 'The world is a jungle. Either you're a predator, or you'll be eaten.'" He glances around the empty room. "I never wanted this jungle. I wanted this. Silence, beauty, knowledge. But you don't choose where you're born. When my father died, I was 22. The empire was on the brink of war with the other families. To leave would be to betray my father's memory and condemn to death all who were loyal to us. To stay would be to accept the rules. I stayed." He turns to her. His eyes seem very dark in the dim light. "I'm trying to change everything from the inside. Slowly, dangerously. I'm negotiating, leading the family away from the most criminal, legalizing what can be legalized. It's like trying to turn a huge ship in a storm. Every step provokes the wrath of the elders and the interest of competitors. That man in the store, it was the eye of a competitor. He was assessing you as my weakness. The number 250, that was the amount he thought he could ask for information about you. Not for you, for information. In my world, everything has a price. He pauses, letting her understand. And then you came along. With your note. You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask for anything. You simply took on the responsibility. For me, it was like seeing the sun after a long winter in the basement. You were real. Not a deal, not an arrangement. Just someone who did the right thing. I wanted to protect that light, even if it meant disturbing your peace. That was my mistake. I brought you into my world without asking. And I was afraid when you truly saw it. I was afraid you would see me only as the monster from that jungle. And you did. He falls silent. His story hangs in the air between them. It's not an excuse. It's an explanation. The story of a boy who didn't choose his fate, but is responsible for it. A man caught between two worlds, trying to find his way out without betraying his own. Sienna sits motionless. All the pieces fall into place. His coldness, his power, his strange detached gallantry, his weariness, his desire for simple things, books, conversation, silence. He doesn't take his eyes off her. He waits for her verdict. He falls silent. The silence in the vast museum hall is audible. Sienna looks at him, at his hunched shoulders, at his face, from which the stone mask has finally fallen. He doesn't ask for forgiveness. He doesn't ask her to come back. He simply shows her the inside of him. All of it, unvarnished. Sienna thinks about his story, not about the Mafia, not about money, not about power. She thinks about the boy who wanted peace and beauty, about the heir trapped in the cage of debt, about the man who saw something real in her simple act. She thinks about his fear when he learned that a competitor had noticed her. He wasn't afraid for himself, he was afraid for her. And she thinks about herself, about her quiet, predictable life, in which before him there was no fear, no such excitement, no such feeling that you could be the whole world for someone. She takes a deep breath and speaks. I don't know your world, and I'm afraid of it, but I trust you. He looks up at her, a spark of hope flaring in them, so fragile it's painful to look at. But there are rules, she continues firmly. My rules. First, no lies. Never. Even if the truth is terrible. Even if you think it's for my own good. You tell me everything. Second, no surveillance without warning. If your people are around, I need to know. Third, I am not part of your family business. Never. My life, my work, my friends, that's separate. She pauses. If you agree, we can try to start over. Not with dinner because of a scratch, but simply, two people, with the truth. Khan looks at her for a long moment. Then he nods slowly. It's not a quick, businesslike nod. It's a deep, serious movement. I agree, he says. Every rule. I swear. There's no pathos in his voice. There's the weight of a promise that a man of his world cannot break. They leave the museum at different times. From that moment on, their relationship becomes their own little, secret fortress. They have their own code. Truth, transparency. Khan is learning to be open. He doesn't share details, but he does tell her when something is happening. We have complicated negotiations today. I'll be unavailable until this evening. Or, my man will be outside your store today. Don't pay any attention. It's just a precaution. He stops sending her orchids every day. Instead, he occasionally brings one when he visits. Or he simply calls in the evening and asks how her day was. He listens to her stories about capricious customers, about new books. It's like a breath of fresh air for him. They meet on neutral ground, in small cafes, in parks, at the cinema. He always arrives alone, in a regular car. He's learning to be just Khan, the one who laughs at a bad joke in a movie, who clumsily tries to cook eggs in her tiny kitchen and leaves a mess behind. He demonstrates his love for classical music, taking her to concerts at student halls where no one knows him. She sees his face transform when he listens to music. At these moments, his eyes are devoid of any trace of the world he carries on his shoulders. Their world is fragile. They both know it. But it has rules, and these rules keep it afloat. A couple of months later, Khan comes to see her in the evening. His face is more serious than usual. He sits at the kitchen table and takes her hands in his. I need to tell you something. A problem has arisen. Sienna cringes inwardly, but nods. True. They had a deal. There is a person, Choi Min-seok. He's a longtime rival of my father's. He believes our family owes him a share of the territory. Father never gave in. Now Minseok has become stronger. He wants to prove that I'm a weak heir, that I can be forced to give in. He pauses, looking her straight in the eye. He found out about you. His people are watching me. They've noticed us. For someone like him, personal attachment is a weakness, a target. Sienna feels a chill run down her spine, but she doesn't look away. What does that mean? Nothing yet. He's just gathering information, but he might try to use you to put pressure on me, without harming you, just demonstrating that he can do it. Are you doing something? She asks. Yes. I'm strengthening security around you. Invisible. And I'm negotiating. I'm trying to resolve this diplomatically, without conflict, but you need to be prepared for anything. I won't hide the danger from you. She nods, scared. But he's here. He's telling the truth, and they're together. A week passes. Life goes on as usual. Sienna tries not to think about Choi, Minsoke, but the shadow has already fallen. One day, after work, she stops into a small supermarket near her home. She puts yogurt, bread, and fruit in her basket. She goes to the checkout, pays, and puts her purchases in her canvas bag. At home, while unpacking her groceries, she feels something hard and foreign at the bottom of her bag. She pulls out a small photographic print. It's of her and Han. They're sitting on a bench in the same park where they had their first serious conversation. They're laughing. The shot was taken with a hidden camera from a distance. And on the back of the photograph, in red ink, it says, "Not his world. Go away while you can." The letters are threatening, with strong pressure. Sienna stands in the middle of the kitchen, holding the photograph in her shaking fingers. This isn't just information. It's a direct warning. Someone slipped it into her bag, in a public place. That means she was being followed. That means they were right there. They could have done anything. Her first thought is panic. Her second is cold rage. Rage that her personal space, her bag, her life, have been so rudely invaded that they're trying to intimidate her and drive her away. She doesn't call Khan right away. She sits down and thinks, for a long time. She comes to see him, not at his office, but at his apartment. It's a spacious, minimalist space with panoramic windows. He opens the door. He sees her face and immediately knows something bad has happened. "What?" he asks, letting her inside. She silently takes out a photograph and hands it to him. He takes it. His face instantly becomes that same one, icy and hard, a stone mask, but underneath it, rage rages. He clutches the photograph so tightly that the paper crumples. "Minseok," he breathes. This is his handwriting. He crossed the line. "Sienna, I know about the threat," she interrupts him calmly. He looks at her, expecting tears, hysteria, demands to hide, but her eyes are dry. They don't glow with fear, but with a firm, cold determination, the same one that once compelled her to write that note. "And I'm staying," she says clearly. "I'm not leaving." He freezes, stunned. "But we fight together," she continues. "And in my opinion, your negotiations, your diplomacy, these are your methods. But I'm part of this now, too. And I have a condition. You don't take me to a bunker and hide me. We move on. But you do what you must to defuse this threat. Finally. And I do what I must. I don't let fear rule my life. We are a team." She says this simply, without pathos, as a statement of fact. She doesn't ask for permission. She states her position. Park Han looks at her. His icy mask cracks and crumbles. His eyes reflect not shock, but a profound, deafening shock. He's seen honesty, light, and tenderness in her, but for the first time, he sees this steely strength in her, a strength that doesn't run from danger, but turns to face it and dictates its terms. This determination shocks him more than any bullet or threat from a competitor, because it's a strength born not in his brutal jungle, but in her simple, honest world, and it proves more powerful than any weapon. He slowly straightens up. He doesn't pick her up. He doesn't make empty promises. He looks at her as an equal, as a partner. "Okay," he says, and there's a new, deep respect in his voice. "Your way. Together." He crumples the photograph into a ball and throws it away. It's the end of the old game. From this second, a new one begins. Their story, the real one.